Obviously that escalated now. We know over 300 vehicles, or around about 300 vehicles, have been impacted, maybe more, by what now we know is over 700, maybe even 750 kilograms, 700 kilograms of metal debris from the back of a truck, which spread this metal debris for over 30 kilometres. As a result of that, the highway was closed as soon as possible once we got the right resources there about 6:30, and the highway is now obviously closed on a significant area. We have managed, with the support of the police, to get some of those big heavy trucks through the area under escort, but the road southbound is still closed, and it is now going to take more than several hours to clean the rest of the motorway up to make sure it's safe. Obviously, I'm sure the police will talk about the investigation so far of what and how this occurred. We have had sweeper trucks, support from the haulage company who've admitted it's their vehicle to help us clean that up. We've had a lot of support from a number of vehicles. One of the things we want to say is there will be no charge for your vehicle being towed. It is important that we support those motorists who suffered multiple tyre failures. And the other message I want to get to people is you may be lucky that you've driven through that area between 5 and 6:30 and don't think your vehicle has been affected. Please check the tyres of your vehicle, because it may be something waiting to happen, as these metal shards are small but very sharp and could lead to later failure. Obviously, the haulage company has admitted that this is their issue. They are waiting for your call if you're affected to ensure that they carry out the necessary claims, and we're working through the issue. Watch out for live traffic, check on radio media and other forms of information as we move through. People have asked me, when is the motorway going to reopen? I don't know, but it's several hours, and we will let you know as soon as we have some better information. Do not travel if you don't have to. We are seeing hour-long tailbacks of 30 to 40 kilometres in some areas, very slow-moving traffic, and those roads which people are using are very narrow and it is very slow. So stay away if you don't need to travel today, and keep your eye open for those changes. I think that's about it. I'd hand over to my colleague now, who's going to give you the latest from the work the police have been doing with us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Yes, look, officers from the Traffic and Highway Patrol Command, as well as our local police districts and police area commands, have been involved in a very significant response to this issue since the early hours of this morning. That response was threefold. Firstly, and perhaps most importantly, to ensure the safety of those members of the public who had become disabled in what were quite dangerous circumstances, darkness with rain falling. Secondly, to close the roadway, prevent any further damage, and try to get it back to a normal working order. And thirdly, to make sure that those people that still needed to travel could get through to their destination. In relation to the latter point, I would like to thank all those members of the community that were impacted today for their patience and their understanding, and ask those, particularly those heading into the evening peak, to again show some understanding, be patient. Yes, it is going to take you longer to get to your destination, but it is still a destination that you will arrive at and hopefully arrive there safely. I'm happy to take some questions. I also wanted to highlight this morning what occurred as being a very good example of the risk posed to motorists in the event of a breakdown, and the need for other motorists to be very conscious of vehicles stopped on the side of motorways, particularly in those high speed zones, of the need not only to create distance but to reduce speed. We're very lucky that we didn't have a fatality or a serious injury this morning, and when it quite easily could have occurred.
Thank you.
Please, Superintendent, outline how many cars or trucks are left remaining up there on the M1?
My understanding is that the vast majority, nearly all of the vehicles, have been removed from the roadway. We do have a couple of remaining vehicles that had been abandoned by their owners, but our colleagues at Transport for New South Wales are making contact with them in an effort to get them moved as soon as possible, but certainly the vast majority of people have been moved away.
And how many were impacted? What was your peak number of people affected by this?
Well, in terms of vehicles, it's ultimately difficult to tell because, as Mr Collins said, there may well be vehicles in car parks across Sydney that are slowly having their tyres deflated that people do not know about yet. But certainly at its peak, we received around 300 reports at our Police Link command, and that is consistent with the estimates from Transport. So we're looking at least 300 vehicles.
And what were the worst sort of damage that you saw when you were reporting?
Well, I think the damage largely consisted of damage to rims and tyres, between one and up to all four tyres. Clearly, when you've had one tyre, it's easy to replace it with a spare, but when you go past that, it becomes a significantly more difficult proposition to get safely from where you are, and that required the use of numerous tow trucks and private contractors, the NRMA, and again Transport for New South Wales to get that job done effectively.
What type of diversions were in place?
Injuries or damages to cars? For instance, people trying to pull over and hitting another car?
Look, we had some anecdotal reports of some minor collisions, but no reports to my knowledge of any serious injury at all, which is pleasing, as I said.
What type of diversions were in place early on and now?
Well,
The afternoon?
basically diversions that were in place were implemented from the outset, which was effectively a closure of the motorway to all southbound traffic. For safety reasons, we had to implement that by what is known as a rolling road closure, just because of the speeds involved. We can't simply have cars doing 110 kilometres an hour coming up to a closed road. So we did that from Wyong Road at Tuggerah all the way down to where the closure remains in place now. What we're planning to do is to progressively open the roadway by section, and the first section that we hope to have open sooner rather than later is from Carryong all the way through up to where the initial closure was implemented. So that'll be all the way down south to the Central Coast Highway, and after that we'll start working on that section from the Central Coast Highway south through to Mooney Mooney and Brooklyn.
When you talk about working on that section, what do you kind of mean by that? What practices and things do you
Well, I'll let Mr Collins talk to that because it's his resources that are undertaking that work right now.
Okay, so you imagine 750 tonnes of finely ground steel, which is a very sharp metal object. It's not just a case of getting a road sweeper out or guys and girls with brooms. We are using some magnetic devices. We are removing embedded metal in the highway itself. This takes a long time. And we are now sweeping through that section. As my colleague has indicated, we cleared lane 3 to allow heavy vehicles. We're now working because once you clear it, other vehicle movement means that some of those shards spill over back onto lane 3. So we've changed our tactic. We're now working slowly at very reduced speeds, clearing and moving down. This is over 30 kilometres of roadway, unprecedented. I just want to shout out to my maintenance teams, the transport commanders. They've been there since about 6 o'clock and they are not going to stop working along with our colleagues until we've got this road clear. But we want to ensure that every single bit of dangerous metal is off that highway, because if we don't do that, we'll have a repeat performance as it opens too early. So watch this space. I can't give you a time, but I assure you, no one sitting there idly with a broom. We are onto it while we clear the debris off the roadway.
I know you can't give.
Can you go to the timeline of when it was closed and how long the tailback was before you actually physically closed that section?
Well, I just want to make sure people understand this. First reports came through one vehicle with broken down with a tyre, flat, about 5:15. And then obviously that started to build, as started to see dozens of vehicles. As my colleague who's in the profession for years says, this is not just stick out a sign, turn left. We had to progressively deal with this. It's dark. It was very foggy. There were vehicles which obviously were still travelling through at high speed. As a result of that, as soon as we got together with the police ourselves, we implemented a very professional plan, rolling road closure. This is absorbing the impact of the traffic, slowing it down, and then putting in the necessary traffic cones, information, so people were safely diverted. Around about 6:30, and the actual times we will get on our reports, we were saying the road was fully closed in the section we now have closed, and that was implemented in pretty speedy time, getting resources there. We know officers travelling to this station suffered tyre failures. We know that a number of our vehicles as well were affected by this situation, but the good news is this was done safely. We haven't got any reports so far of any significant injury or damage other than rims and tyres. And I would say, whilst people can be critical about how quickly to close the road, in my experience of 5 decades of transport, it was a pretty professional job. And we'll continue to work with the police, our emergency service colleagues, and also those breakdown services as well.
All right, we'll leave that press conference there. That was New South Wales Police and other authorities speaking from Sydney there after hundreds of cars had their tyres shredded on the M1 into Sydney. We heard there around 750 kilograms of metal debris fell from the back of a truck onto the road over a 30-kilometre stretch this morning. 300 cars have been impacted. The motorway has been closed and is likely to remain closed for at least the rest of today. Police say it's very lucky no one was killed or seriously injured. Hundreds of cars were damaged on the road very early this morning in the dark and the rain. There were some minor collisions reported, but thankfully no serious injuries. Anyone who did manage to get through the road early this morning is also being urged to check their tyres, as they may have pieces of metal lodged in the tyre. The debris is said to be very tiny and very sharp, but a reminder that road still closed and likely to be for several hours yet.